and having fun. So today we're going to be focusing on the Assistants V2. Did a blog a while back, and Assistants V2. So let's say I think it was Node Red Chat GPT Assistant V2. Nope, that's not it. It wasn't V2 or anything like that. Yeah, this was the blog right here that I wrote. Probably it was last November, and since then they've come out with a version 1 of the assistant, and we're gonna try to see if we can update it to V2 today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It doesn't have to necessarily be about the V2 or assistant or anything like that. Just feel free to join. So, cool. So, working on ChatGPT V2 assistants today. Feel free to join and ask Node Red questions, or just what is it, Node Red, or just chat or Chat GPT questions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're probably going to not use much of this original flow. We're just going to kind of use it as a reference here and go from there. So let's just kind of review what we've got here. So the first thing we needed to do is that this first, let's say, flow up here. I'm actually going to copy. Let's see if I can get these to kind of, I want to move these up in the top right hand corner. I wonder if I can just do control, or there we go. Nope. And we're going to move this up here, so, oh, you gotta be kidding me. All right, I guess I'll just move them one at a time. I'm just trying to make it look better. Yeah, we'll do that. That's how we're gonna do it, because I want to make sure we leverage the appropriate amount of space. Who's in there? Is it T? Can you hear me today, T? I think that, yep, T. I think you've been having issues in the past. I was curious if it's working better for you today. And if it isn't working here, I guess you can't hear me, but works. So we're going to deploy that. And so the first thing that this assistant does is it creates an assistant, and then it gives me an assistant ID, in which I can copy the value there. And I believe I paste that assistant somewhere along the road. So, what is this? List assistants. So that gives me the list of all my assistants that I have. And correct. If I want to delete assistant, it basically allows me to put the assistant ID in there. So for example, if I paste that in there, click done, deploy, and I've got 8 there. But if I list assistants again, I should have now 7. What was the result? Oh, okay, so let's maybe delete another assistant. Actually, let's make sure we don't delete something we need. Oh, no. And, oh, there it is down there. So we did have 8, now we have 7. And so we don't need to create a new assistant, but what we can do is start working on and converting this to the version 2. So we got the API and information over here on the left-hand side, and we're going to see exactly how this works as far as the overview of the assistants. So maybe this is a good time to talk about what an assistant does. So if you're familiar, let me turn off this notepad because I don't need that. It's kind of blocking my face. So if you're not familiar with assistants and what they do, Um, assistants are like a custom GPT instruction set. So it knows what its purpose is. And what I mean by it knows what its purpose is it's kind of like each assistant has a person. It functions as, like, let's say a Excel wizard, or it knows that it's going to be receiving some bit of information and it's going to multiply them together. So it's like a preset of instructions that knows that you don't have to give it much details. Instead of trying to give it all the information it needs every single time you call that API, which every single time you do that it costs money with ChatGPT. And the way this does is, say, it minimizes the amount of communication that the chat GPT needs to construct. So GPT is like a custom instruction set that's preloaded. So it's very simple. I created this when it was version 1, and what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to version 2 today of the of the GPT Assistant. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Looks like we have somebody over in IT. Oh yeah, thanks, Christopher. It looks like you're looking at some of the new changes we have in our Discord server. But yeah, I decided that what I was figuring out is, like, hey, maybe we should create some, like, organization to our industries, and maybe create an industry focus inside of the Discord server as well, to kind of think about, like, industries and create opportunities for discourse and Discord to basically talk about how things can be beneficial and used in different ways. So just kind of thought that would be interesting. But so let's jump into it. Let's look at the Create Assistant. And I think Node.js, the first thing it says is Create Assistant. And let's make sure this is okay. So we're going to copy this and we're going to create a new flow, and we're going to call this Assistant V2. And we're going to click Done, and we're going to paste it. And so the first thing we need to do is change this to V2. And I'm going to have to get another token. Let me see if I've got one saved somewhere. I think I do, but you shouldn't be able to see that token. Doo-da. We don't want you to see that token. Doo-da-da-da-day. I know I've got one here. There we go. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a second, just so you don't see this. Boop. And I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to keep it as V1 Assistant, and so when I run it, I know I'm not getting any issues. And then I'll share my screen again. Remote desktop. Okay, there we go. So we're going to come in here and delete and just make sure this. Yeah. All right. We had a good result. Name MathTutor2, and it is assistant ID here. We're going to copy, delete that assistant ID. And go over here. We're just going to delete that one real quick, because I don't want to have too many assistants. Pop. And now that's true. Assistant deleted. Oops. Okay. So now going back, we need to convert this to V2. And click OK. It even has the name down there as V2 Assistant, and deploy. And the information that it needs in the instruction is several parameters like model, instructions, and tools. So basically those are 3 variables, which it looks like it's code interpreter. We need type code interpreter. Yep. And you are a personal math tutor asked to answer math questions. Yep, we're good. And model. Let's try this new model. Let's work with that, see how it works out. And instructions. So we have instructions, tools, and it looks like this is going to be basically the same thing. So we're going to call this math tutor 3. deploy, and it looks like the first creating assistant is gonna. Oh, okay. Um, unknown URL. So our URL, our endpoint, looks like it changed. Okay. Let's figure out where that endpoint is. Assistance, a URL endpoint. It doesn't say down there, does it? What the Python? It didn't have anything in there that would be indicative there. That's fine. But all right. Today's going to be a longer stream too, or office hours, whatever you want to call it at this point. We're going to be streaming. We're going to be going through this. So if you begin, jump in if you have any questions. So we need to find Open AI Assistants endpoint. So that's the V1, but I'm wanting to look for the V2. Introduction. Authentication. But I feel like it should be right here. How it works. File search. How assistants work. Where is our API endpoint? Creating an assistant. Docs. API references. Assistants. Okay, so create assistants. Did it not change? But it says they're using V2. Retrieve assistants. So now I'm confused because it's saying that there hasn't been an update in the assistants. So I might completely have been wrong. Open AI Assistants version 2. We are announcing the variety of new features. This instant beta platform to the new API version. Open this as here is new. Import retrieval, file search vector. You can now create and manage roles assistants. So let's see if this gives me some documentation. It's still saying it's V1 though. New API version. Just making sure there's no questions coming through. But yeah, we're just working on ChatGPT's OpenAI assistants and having fun with it, and moving our beta to our new API version. Where see our migration guide. Beta header version. Wait, if you do not use our tools or files with Assistants API today, there should be no change required for you to migrate from V1 to version 2 of the beta. Simply pass V2 beta version header. V2 version header. So tools are now in a different setup. So basically my tools are the only things that have changed. Okay, so fundamentally everything is basically the same now. So my job just became a lot easier. But I think we can still do some work to improve this flow because it is kind of a little bit complicated. It says open beta V2. Which is confusing that they would basically say that it's like I wonder if I just have to put v2 here, and that might be open beta. So open AI dash beta. Okay, so there we go. That's one of the changes. Changing beta versions. We gotta change the assistant v2. So let's just check that now, because that might have been part of my issue a second ago. An error. So my guess now is this is still v1. We just now are still, the endpoint's the same. Cool, you're a personal tutor. Okay, it's made it. So the only thing that changes so far is the assistance of v2 here. The endpoint is still the same. We are just kind of giving a different parameter, which gives it a different instruction set behind the scenes. A little bit confusing. But yes, cool. Let's go from here, and we'll close this, and let's figure out. So we've created a new assistant, and we'll say list. We'll see what list assistants, and it's going to list assistants, and turning the screen off just for 1 second so you guys can't see that as I drop my API key in there again. And oh, actually you can't see it, so I don't have to do that anymore. It doesn't show you. So basically we're going to drop this to v2 and click done, deploy. And now I should see my list of assistants. And maybe what we'll do in a second is we'll go to the playground so you guys can see what this is doing behind the scenes. So now I should have my list of array, and then, okay, so that was easy. Now we want to delete an assistant. And it should be v2 and copy, paste. And no music today, because I've gotten feedback that people don't like the music, so no music today. And where's my inject node? I need to inject the assistant ID here, which I gathered from this one when I created the assistant. So we're going to just go ahead and delete that one. Paste that there. Done. Deploy. Inject. Assistant was deleted. True. Congratulations. So when I list the assistants now, I should have 8 because I created one there and it went to 9. So we're good. Now the last one is, well, actually not the last one, adjust assistant instructions. So what this means is we're getting a new instruction set from my data. So this is Math Tutor 3. We're going to copy this assistant's information. Oh, and we're going to use the version, not turbo, we're going to use the 4.0, I think is what it is. Where did I see that? I did see that somewhere, but I was kind of curious. GPT, I think it's just GPT dash 4.0. There we go. Yeah. And we'll just copy that. I believe that was how it was, but I want to make sure I got it right. And we have the assistant, which is this one. And say where our instruction is, you will add the 2 numbers I give you together. Done. And template, I think this basically says open the, give me pass the assistant ID. And then from here, we got to change it to assistant v2. Drop in our token again. Pop that in. Done. Deploy. And basically now when I adjust the assistant instructions, I should... Error. What was my error? No assistant found with ID. Okay, so let's list the assistants, and we'll get a copy of this assistant ID. Paste that one there. Deploy, delete, and address the assistant. Cool. Math tutor. You will add the two numbers I give you together. I love it. And create and run thread. So I believe this isn't the most latest version of this ChatGPT create run thread. Oh, it's because I've got it in a sub flow here, which is nice in theory, but it's actually not. So we're probably gonna break this out. So edit flow sub, yeah, I remember this. This was much larger and more complex than I wanted it to be. So, because I've got to go in here and also I have to edit. Oh, I still have. We have to change this to v2 and change this to v2. We still have a bare authentication token. We'll see if I wonder, because now it should have deleted, it shouldn't have passed those off in the flows. I'm kind of curious if I imported this from my flows.json, which I have right here, if it has it built into that subflow, but I doubt it. We're adjusting that one, and then v2, and show results. Done. Okay. So a little bit about what this does now is it creates a thread. And a thread, to, if you're curious, so when you have an assistant creates a thread of thought, and that thread basically is like your ChatGPT. When you open up ChatGPT, you kind of create a new conversation. So think of a thread as like a conversation. In that conversation, one of the first things you do when you give ChatGPT is a purpose. You say, ChatGPT, you are going to be doing this, and this is what I need you to do. That's its instructions. That's instructions were given here. In this particular case, the instructions, and tell which model, and of course, the assistant. Now that I give it instructions, it says, okay, now we create a thread, give me a new thread, create a message. This message is what I'm going to be passing, and I believe that's probably in this particular case right here, message, and I need to drop this. I believe this is probably the latest one. And instructions, I don't know. I guess if I wanted to write over the instructions, let's go ahead and look at the instructions that I have here. We'll just add them here. GPT 4.0. And do we say we're going to give you two numbers? And so let's start off with the two numbers of 2 and 5. Done. So coming back over here, we've got the create thread, create a message. So the message is what I'm going to send to it. And then it tells it, okay, now we've got a run that we want you to run. What I mean by run is saying run the execute the message and thread, and then wait for results. And when results come through, we are going to pass that message along. And I've got also statuses and things like that, so you know exactly how things are going. Create thread, pass messages, so you kind of know where the errors are going if there is an error. So let's deploy. Let's see our debug node, see if we got anything good here. So let's see if we broke. It's pass message, it's running error. Okay, so let's figure out how I'm going to get said error out. Check messages, and I think this is error. And it says okay, so what I need to do is figure out how I'm going to then pass this out to a debug node. And we're just gonna turn this on. Warning, node action disabled within subflow. Okay. All right, so we are gonna create a new output. Just say messages, and we'll just call it there. And I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna deploy it. So now I'm gonna go to system v2, got another output, which I can just drop a debug there to read exactly what's going on. And create run thread, error. Okay, so what's our error? List data array has more object, data array, first ID, null. All right, so this checking for results. Let's make sure that we've got v2. And what are we hitting? This is our template, and we are checking for results, threads, run, payload, ID. Okay, so retrieve thread. Let's go back over here to this original, managing threads. And managing threads, run. So we are doing threads runs. Okay, so runs and steps. Let me see what the endpoint. Maybe I need to go back over here to this documentation, to the API reference guide. That's audio. How do we get to audio? Nope. API reference. Create thread runs. So, okay, so we have open API, v2, threads, thread ID, runs, payload ID. Create thread and run. Runs, and list runs, retrieve, modified run, create run. Create run, create thread and run, and runs. So that's basically what I'm doing. List runs, retrieve runs. Okay, there we go, retrieve runs. The ID of the thread that was run, retrieve run. Okay, so let's look at this now to make sure we've got this organized correctly. So we have a template here that is organizing, that runs. All right. So we pass in that function is thread ID and run ID into this details here. And what it's giving me is object list array first. And maybe, so wait. What is this? List object data array, so there's no data. The switch, if it gets a result, payload status, and the response is, so maybe the response changed a little bit. That's what it looks like it did. And failed, started at status completed. But we're not even seeing anything coming. Did I get the right? Yeah, I did. I got the right one to output too. So my threads, maybe what we should do is get a copy of this payload. Yeah, we'll just put debug right there. It's gonna, okay. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get this over to output 2. There we go. And we'll just delete that real quick. And we're gonna run this again and see exactly what our errors are. And so it gave me an error, but the results object, no system found with ID. Okay, so I list assistants. That's embarrassing. All right, so first assistant, last assistant. So let's just go ahead, math tutor. We're gonna copy this one, and let's make sure we got this assistant now. Oh, that was painful. That's painful. All right. There we go. So all right, here is our data object, object 1, content object, and where is the actual information? So this is all from here. Object assistant ID, run ID, text. The value sum of 2 and 5 is 7. What? Perfect. So instructions, we can now, we can parse it in here. So this is kind of giving you an idea of how this all works. So it looks like we didn't actually have to do much to upgrade to version 2 for the simplistic how-to guide. So what we can do is, like, this is a create thread and run, and I don't like that we have to give it, we want to give it a message, and we want to get an assistant ID, but we really don't want to give it a new model or instruction. So I might create and copy. Let's go ahead and clean this back up, because I don't want this, and I don't want this. And we're going to say outputs is 1. So when I go back over here, I should see, yeah, perfect. Okay, clear. All right, so when I run this again, create thread, and let's just updates model and what was the other thing? Instructions. And this is kind of like an all-in-one, and we want to make a new one that just is like create thread and run, but the instructions and model don't change. So let's look at, where's subflow 1? I wonder what subflow 1 is. Okay. And I wonder how to duplicate. I've never actually done this. How do I duplicate a subflow? Do I just have to create another subflow and then convert it? So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do. And we're going to turn off the status and output. We're going to copy that. And we are going to create, we'll create here. I don't like how I've got this organized either. It's really kind of ugly, but I think I know why I have it organized this way. Let's just see if we can fix it just a smidge though, because it can be cleaned up a little bit. Yeah, this is sloppy looking. Probably once I made it a subflow, I didn't think about actually cleaning this up. Insert junction? No. Let's move it like that. Yeah, there we go. And then this random timer. What the timer does is if it checks to see if the function, the thread has completed its run or not. But it doesn't seem like yeah, it just kind of is like a random timer to make sure things are going. All right, so now that we've done this, and we're gonna shift this up here, move this so we're on the same, and all that is the statuses right there. Okay, move that out just a smidge, and we're gonna create a new inject node. Actually, what I can do is I can just copy this inject node real quick. Paste that there. In this inject node, right now we have instructions and model, which I want to get out of here. PV1 threads. Okay, so instructions. Change rules, instructions, payload, assistant ID, template, assistant ID, and payload. That's all good. What is this string? Okay, we don't worry about that. Change string rules. Ooh, I might need to tell people they need this particular dependency or dependent node and share that with everybody. Template. We are passing and creating a URL. Change to rules. Payload assistant ID. And template. So interesting. It doesn't seem as if I'm calling instructions or model. Instructions. Yes. So creates a thread. If I just delete these, does it still run? And we can find out by clicking debug, deploy, and inject. I need another debug. Looks like it had an error because I deleted that, and we'll figure out where it came from. I wonder if I don't have an API. Error. So create thread, pass, run. Error. Error. So this is error. And we're just going to drop that to another debug for now. Deploy. And click inject. Create thread, pass message, error. What is our error? Our object. Missing bearer or authentication token in header. That's it. So we'll copy that. Done. Do these all have... No, these don't. How are these working? It's very interesting that it was working a second ago. But we'll worry about that later. Okay. I think I got that one there. And then the last one is this one there. Okay. Done. Delete. Inject. Error. Missing bearer authentication token. Invalid request. Did I not click deploy? Oh yeah, you can see that. Content array object text. The sum of 2 and 5 is 7. So that was all unnecessary. So I need to fix that because that might be confusing to somebody. because that is incorrect. So it already runs exactly the way I want it to. This was a fun exercise of being wrong. And so we need to come over here to this inject and delete the model and delete the instructions. Your assistant ID is the only thing you need to pass through this in the message. And I don't need to press cancel. Done. Deploy. And when I run this, we'll do this one more time just to make sure everything is working as expected. Done. All right. And that is my content. Value of sum of 2 and 5 is 7. Cool. All right. Yeah. So if you're curious about how you can start messing with the ChatGPT playground or the assistant, ChatGPT Assistant Playground. Come on. Assistants Playground. There we go. So this is where I can look at all my assistants. So I've got multiple different assistants. And where you can come in here. And so, for example, it has my instructions there. You'll add the two numbers together. So 2, 5, run, and then user, the result is 7. Code interpreter. But I guess the question is what type of code interpreter? Code interpreter enables the assistant to write and run code. This tool can process files with diverse data sets and formats. So what type of file search? If we want to add files, functions let you describe a custom function of your app or external APIs to the assistant. So it allows the assistant to intelligently call those functions by outputting a JSON object containing the relevant arguments. So basically you can use ChatGPT to call an API that might be external to the ChatGPT's system, so you can get additional information, then bring it back and pipe it in here. This is where you can also adjust some of the temperatures, if you're not familiar, so forth. And it looks like it's seeing that it's version 2 here. And the code interpreter, I wonder what happens if I turn the code interpreter off and I say 2, 5, run, or 2 and 7. Okay, so it still ran the code interpreter. It didn't do anything different, so that's fine. And cool. So wait, let's start a new thread. How do I delete new clear thread? There we go. So if I say 2 and 7, I'll say 8. Let's see if it runs. Okay, so now it doesn't do the code interpreter, which I think the code interpreter probably takes a lot more resources. So when I come over here to create assistants, so tools, I need to put some documentation about tools. Let's look at the tools. Let's see what other tools we have. Tools. Audio. Tools. There we go. We start seeing code interpreter. Tools, code interpreter, file search. Tools. Did it have a link right there for tools? Functions. Runs tools. I think the thing is that's done in the create assistant, create assistants, tools are optional, defaults to 0. That might be cool. Is what I can do is create an assistant, and I wonder if I can adjust an assistant. So if I come over here, adjust assistant instructions, and I create a new one called, let's see, make sure we look at this over here. It's called tools, yep. And I come over here and say tools. Just making sure I'm passing the right parameters. It's gonna yell at me, but I'm just making the lazy approach and just copying things over for now. And passing that there. And done deploy. Now I want to adjust this one. So right now, if I go back over to my assistants, we see that it says code interpreter. Let's make sure that we're looking at the same. Yep, it looks like we're the same. So when I adjust the tool and I refresh over here, code interpreter should go green. Did it not? Let's clear the thread. Click to copy. Tools and resources, empty. So you'll add, okay, that is the same one. So what is this call right here? Okay, so maybe what I am done is payload.instructions, payload.model, and I need to have another set. This seems kind of redundant and bad programming, but it is what it is. Payload, set message.payload.tools to message.tools, maybe. And okay, assistants. Yeah, let's try that now. Doop. Object error. Invalid type of tools, unexpected argument, but got a string instead. Instead, invalid request errors, tools, invalid types. So that means that my API is wrong. Tools type code interpreter. Tools type code interpreter. And make sure we're looking at v2. Where was that documentation that showed and compared? Tools type code interpreter. Now, our API reference is we need to look at making sure that assistants, create assistants, modify assistant, tools type, show possible types, code interpreter, show properties. Interesting. And that file search. So basically, it's a part of the payload. So my part of my payload right here is tools, message.payload. So you have message.payload.instructions, message.payload.tools right here is make sure that I have this in the correct format. Okay, that's what it is right there. There we go. So now when I run it, I'll go back over to assistants. It's still code interpreter, and it ran. And when I refresh it here, we should see it say code interpreter. Perfect. So now let's put tools options. Tools. This isn't the best place to put that. We're gonna put that tools options. Okay, so tools is that's why it's differently, because now instead of all these other ones, we have that. So what API reference tools. Was that over here? I got too many tabs. Okay, so tools options is file search tool and function tool. File search tool. Did they have an example of the function tool over here? Code interpreter, tool resources, file search. Okay, so then we have to give a. Ooh, you can put vectors. We'll just leave it like that for now. If people need to get into that, that's what they can do. So right now, it functions exactly how it was before, so that's nice. So I'll just update. Looks like awesome. Glad that you're using that, Ghost. I don't think you're probably listening to me, but shout out to you. It looks like that's how I created some Discord changes in the channel. One of the, like I said at the beginning, was basically to give an idea of where people were using things and how they were using things, and it looks like they had Ignition, and then I don't know, it doesn't know, but hadn't heard of Node-RED 3 or 4 years ago, but now they're having a lot of success, so it's awesome. Always awesome to hear. Look who's here. Nice. We'll go back to office hours. So that's kind of the end of the day. I guess what we can do is I mentioned this over here. Maybe we can just edit this flow. View on GitHub. Chat assistant. So flow.json. What if I update this flow.json? So yeah, we'll do that. We'll update the flow.json because everybody needs a copy of it. And we'll just do Control X to export, compact, copy to clipboard, and assistance. Hey, it's interesting. How's that? How do I edit this? Edit. And Control V, and that should do it. Update. Perfect. So now flows.json, and if I come back over here, and let's look at flow Node-RED, and we need to go to flows. And we look up ChatGPT, and we want to look at the Assistant API and view on GitHub. I think that's what I just changed. It is what I just changed. So we're good. Now I think I have to do like a refresh button or something like that. And let's see if this link still works. Yep. What is a ChatGPT? View on GitHub. And I feel like I have to copy this flow from your JSON to import into Node-RED. Perfect. And there is a trigger. Actions, share flow. How do I? Oh, because I haven't signed in to this particular flow view. So there we go. All right. Share flow, refresh from GitHub. Perfect. So that moved right there. So I know that took. And API version 2. Now remove refresh from share, remove flow. How do I edit the title from here? ChatGPT Assistant. View on GitHub. Share flow. Remove refresh. I mean, I guess at the same time, I can just say updated version 2 in my notes, which we can do real quick here. Assistant API oh, there's where it is right there. All right, version 2 updated. ChatGPT. Perfect. I like it. So we'll update secret. So now API version v2 updated. Now if I click refresh on from GitHub, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Boom. Oh, I don't like that. We'll just edit that real quick. And update. And refresh from GitHub. Now, why was that fine a second ago? That is a little frustrating. Version 2, ChatGPT Assistant integration. And I probably need to put something about the dependent. Actually, you know what we might need to do is figure out how I can remove that from the system. So that's what we'll do. Let's update that so we remove the that dependency on this subflow, which is this string decode HTML entities. How about we use ChatGPT to understand? I think I know what that does, but let's figure it out. So we're gonna add a second output. I'm gonna drop it right here, and we're gonna see the output of this to the output of this, and we click deploy. And I'm gonna go back to this, and I now have a new debug node, deploy. And let's see what it does. And I'm gonna do a complete message object. We're gonna turn off that because we don't need that. And we're gonna run. So the before is, did that tell me which it was actually doing? Which payload.content. 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 Interesting. I guess if you try to put something in there that is, let's say, a JSON, decode. So that was decode HTML entities. I'll be right back. I gotta stop my screen for just a second. Just one second. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining me on this. All right. So turning my screen back on. All right. So in ChatGPT, can't see because my big old dome's in the way. So let me just fix that real quick. Let me see if I can pop this over here. Here, so you guys can see the responses. And what we're gonna try to do is figure out if I can do. What is that? Get out of here. What is that? Oh, Spotify. Listen to music earlier. So what we're gonna do is gonna say, all right, I wonder. Yeah. I am working in Node Red, and I want to decode HTML entities. Can you help me with a function block? Function that does this for me. Sure. Okay. So copy. And yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if we can just delete this, and we're gonna put a function here called I even had this organized in here. Weird. Interesting. Okay, so function, we're going to call this decode HTML entities, but it respelled it to entries. And we're going to copy all this, paste this. Constant entities, ampersand, aptos, quote, and return that. So basically just removes any of that information. And what was it passing in? I forget. 2 and 5, which is the content. So if we want to test this and whether or not it is working, we can inject messages. And it gave me an example. Can you give me an example that would for me? Can you give me an example to test? Yeah, there we go. And so we're gonna paste that here. Hello, enjoy coding, quote, great. And paste that there. And we're gonna deploy and just see if it hiccups. Text replace is not a function type text replace. So text replace return. Let's just drop that in there. Yeah, it literally just says, it's like, okay. Perfect. And done, deploy, delete, assistant, run. Okay, it ran. It didn't see the result because I didn't have the debug on, but it definitely ran. Gonna just run it again. It's probably gonna be like, whoa, you were supposed to give me 2 numbers and that's not what you gave me. Ooh. Oh, I'd actually want to see, what? Sorry, please provide the 2 numbers you would like to add together. That's exactly what I was expecting it to be, is saying something along the lines like that. Like, wrong. It's not how this is supposed to work. So with that being said, my subflow that I have here is decode HTML entities functions exactly the way I wanted it, because it does. Because it does. I like that answer to myself. All right, so we're going to click done, and we're actually going to go back to this. And we have to go into our assistant, and we're going to delete this. Where's this debug output? Delete and deploy. Now my assistant should have perfect. And we're going to say create run and thread and run. Delete that. Done. Adjust assistance and mod. Perfect. And done. All right, so deployed. Now we're going to re-import this into the gist. Export JSON, copy clipboard. All right. The update secret gist and updates was ChatGPT Assistant. Let's re-edit this one more time. I'm gonna say for updates removed the need for a dependency called, this feels very wrong how it's spelled, string called string, and replaced with a function. And then we also dependency, I feel like it's, I'm not the speller, there we go. Dependency and replace with a function, and then we also upgraded to version 2 of the API in the update. And cool, so now we've saved that, come back over here and we say refresh from GitHub. And cool, there we go with the updates. That makes me happy. All right, got some people, a few people on Twitch, somebody on YouTube. Anybody got any questions, things that we can answer? But today was just a fun day to kind of work with ChatGPT's assistants. Might be sticking around doing some more stuff. Maybe we'll go see if we can troubleshoot some issues on the interwebs with Node-RED and so forth. But we do have, I did have some thoughts. So let me just check a message real quick. And yeah, so okay, let's see if we've got any stuff in the forum. I think I looked on the forum. I looked and checked in the forum earlier, and it didn't seem like there was too many questions that had to do with anything that I can assist with, but let's just check. I'll move this over here. We'll move it over here and see if we got any any things that we can take a look at. Running a join node after filtering my messages. Function code review. Function code. Let's see. My bulk need help with telnet. Held. That's probably something that I should look at. Segmentation fault. And all right, let's see what this says. I'm new to Node-RED and I'm trying to get data from a Modbus TCP device. This device is directly connected to the network. I try to use Modbus read node of Node-RED contrib Modbus. So I created a server with the following data, and the setting itself will try the following data. The settings itself will try the following data. From the node, I get an error, Modbus exception, slave device failure, device reports internal error. The acts as a gateway. Server. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to help with this one. I don't have a Modbus system or that particular device, and particularly don't know Modbus quite as well as I'd like to know Modbus. Let's see if we got some other stuff, because that's not something that's any new stuff. Running a join node after filtering my message. I've encountered a problem that has already happened to me. My objective is to convert French payroll files to the format perp of my company accepts. The problem is after filtering and converting my message, the join node transmits nothing in its output. I think that it's linked to the fact that some messages are missing, causing the filtering. There's my flow. I've had to wait for you to test some data. Thanks for someone with my pleasure. Cool. That sounds like fun. Let's see what we can do. Even if somebody's already answered it, let's get a new instance for us to mess with. So we dashboard testing. I don't think I've got anything in here. This is just like a testing server. Let's see what it does. Awesome. Glad you you enjoyed the webinar, Mechatronica. The NCD flow fuse we got. So I got a pretty exciting webinar. At least I should say I'm pretty excited about it. Something that I've been picking up a lot of. This thought that is creeping into, like, that was very much in line with the Industry 4.0 thing. And what we also often hear is like developers in the IT side, and then you have the OT side. And it's going to be a good webinar. I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to dig into how and why we should be enabling domain experts, and why the situation is the way we are, if that makes sense. Like, why are the IT people and OT, like, what's the basis of the problem of that convergence? Like, what keeps things at bay? And I've really solidified it down to a concept, and really interested in feedback for people. Is so the IT side is focused on when they build software, their complex problems have to be met with complex solutions, because the value of a project's success is dependent on whether or not they completed it to 100%. Now, you could say to yourself, like, yeah, of course, that's how OT is as well, but I would also say no, because a lot of the times an OT is, if you can enable somebody to solve a problem themselves, what that means is they may not solve it to 100%, but they're closer to solving a problem that hasn't been attempted yet. And what I mean by that, that's like these low-hanging fruits you often hear. This isn't, and this kind of all ties into the shadow IT discussion that I had a few months, or like a few weeks back, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I can't remember. But when you give somebody a tool that they're able to solve problems with, and they're like, one of the arguments is like, there's always going to be a point where with low code or something, or that you're going to get to that you won't be able to solve it to 100% completion. And the answer that I have to that is, so what? we'll cross that bridge when we get to that bridge. There's no reason to stop productivity if I can put in a low-code platform and I can increase production with a measurable value over where I was before. My future problems of running into limitations is a future problem. That's something that I don't need to worry about until I get there. Now, I understand at the same time, like, that's a lot of what developers do is they spend so much time making sure they don't get themselves into a problem which they didn't think enough in details that if they went just a different rabbit hole, a lot of their code is dependent on that. And I can understand that sentiment, but what I'm trying to say is at the same time in the OT space is when we think about low-hanging fruit, we're not solving everything. We're not putting everything into this single bucket of mass low-code application. We're doing a simple process. And what I think about is when you think about the, let's just pull it up real quick. Unified. I'm sure we can find something. Unified name space architecture. And what is unified? Why does it matter? Let's see if I'm sure there's going to be a good architecture diagram here from them. And where is it? Not here. Let's look at this. I'm sure we can probably find it on Industry 4.0. Okay, so let's see if we can get this image here. So when you think about the unified namespace, and each of these little lines here represent a communication pathway. And one of the benefits of going with, let's say, an open source solution for this communication is that if you need to change, you can change. And that's what a lot of the mentality is. Don't base your solution off of a software stack, but a technology stack. I believe I could be getting those backwards, but the philosophy is build around, let's say, like a unified namespace, and then build tools that communicate with them. They can also be replaced. The key is replaceability. Go towards replaceability, because one thing's for certain, things aren't permanent. Things will change. Let's say, for example, like we want to change the ERP solution. We're going to have to come up with a different solution to communicate with it. Whether that is a low-code platform or Python or some other communication platform that you use, the answer is you need to make it as easily and integrate as easily as possible. Probably should have started with ERP, but really think about, let's say, for example, program controllers. You need to think about how you're going to bucketize those things. And this isn't going to be a single application. It shouldn't just be a single. You should, and that's when I think about low code, is you can organize them into different buckets. So let's say the in-feed for this production line is all one low code instance. The outfeed to this line is all one low code instance. And how does this tie together is fundamentally these little buckets. And let's say if you bucketize them appropriately, you will run into something that will be impossible to complete with the current platform you have chosen. But what you need to do is bucketize it in a way that that little thing that you can't do can be done with something else. And this is why I think open architecture, like open source software is key, because with the open source, if you have a development team, they can come in and augment that little piece that you're struggling with, whether that's through the low-code platform or some other different solution. The key is enable the people that understand the problems that they have. Give them the wrench. Give them the tools to, row the boat. Give them the tools that allow them to get to the information and data, and oversee that. And because it's not going to be perfect, and that's one of the things that's always scary, is it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be something. And one thing about imperfection is it's like a fail fast type of approach. There's going to be times when things are wrong, and proving them wrong is okay, and correcting them. The answer is when you can move quicker on iterative processes, and when you find out you did something wrong, change it. So that was one of the things that I was kind of thinking about this week when I've been going through this developer versus low code mindset, and it's just something that I'm going to be thinking on a lot. So if you have any thoughts there, please drop them in chat. Something that I've been kind of working on, and but yeah, going to be a fun webinar at the end of the month. It's going to be taking a lot of the thoughts in detail about what I've been working on and kind of deep thinking on. So yeah, think about these lines and how you want to organize. Your unified namespace is something that can also be swapped out. When making sure you're swapping those out, you got to think about how you're going to be able to make a solution where you can swap out the communication between these devices and so forth. So, all right, so let's move back over to that question that I had. We kind of went on a little bit of a pivot, but running a join on the node after filtering, I kind of want to see what this looks like. So import, paste, unrecognized type, watch. Unrecognized watch. I wonder if somebody commented that. Watch. Okay, so node red watch. Node red watch directory. Node red watch directory. Node red contrib watch directory. I guess that's probably what it is. Maybe. Let's see. All right, node red watch directory. Cancel import. No, palette manager. Watchdog. Is that what it was? Watch directory. And let's see if we can pick it up. And see if this is the right one. And we'll go from there. Nope. Watch. No. Okay, so there's a conflict. Close. Unknown. You can use manual inject. Okay, so cancel. It doesn't look like we need that, so let's just... it is watch directory. It's going to yell at me. Confirm deploy. See if it completely shuts down. I don't need that right now so much. It did not like me doing that. Slow stop. Okay, so boop. Done. All right. So this is an example. Let's see if we can look at what this... So it's a bunch of data coming in an array. Completion number. And then does a split. Join. Combine each payload to create an array. Mode manual. Let's figure out what manual means. Join the sequence of messages in a variety of ways. When you configure a join mode, the node is able to join the sequence of messages into a number of different results. A string or buffer created by joining the selected properties of each message to a single character, an array. if a message is received with the message complete property set, the output message is finalized and sent. This resets any part counts. Okay. So then I guess the question is then when the split function, when it's basically done, will it basically, I'm guessing, my guess is this filter empty null is taking that wrap out. That's going to be my hypothesis, and why that join node isn't. Ooh. Okay, so if I do boop and where is this one coming from? Oh, show here. What's it? I think this is one of these other pages that I was doing something last week for. Yeah. Let's just turn off this page so I don't get these errors anymore. And go back to debug node. And what I should have seen is it didn't do a complete. So join is waiting for after messages with complete property set. After a message with the complete property set. Message.complete 1. Converter, and filter, that's what it's doing, and then what it's set file name. So it's never getting the complete message. So let's break this back down. I'm going to turn off base data and come on friend. Okay, so when I inject, it's converting. Where did this error come from? Disable this. Go away. And disable this. Go away. Disable this. Go away. Yeah, we're no longer doing the assistant stuff. We finished that up. We're just kind of tinkering around now. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask and interject. So let's close that. Let's run this again. So it's not sending me a message.payload.complete. So does my split, is it supposed to send message.payload.complete? And split message based off of this, split array, split using, copied, send a message after each pair. No, we don't need to do that. And it does the converter, it finishes it up, and then we join it to create an array after the message, send the message after a number of message parts, timeout after message complete. So let's just do 10 seconds just for making sure that if I set the join to a number, then I guess I don't have this turned on. So we might have to do this again. Done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Does it? Okay, there we go. So the problem is there's no message.complete. Let's see if we can go over here. And look at this. Okay. try this out. Edit the join node, and after time at first message option, enter 3. This means if a new message doesn't write 3 after seconds, it will join the data it has and pass it. Yeah. You also have a problem, the set file name function node. Your first line is let file name, but the incoming message does not have message.file identify. Yeah, okay. Pierre, that works. There is a value of message file amendment text my file. The problem only shows itself when the manual junk button, but there's an update to my flow where I fix it. Do you know? Now I have another problem. I remarked that the join node maybe doesn't see my object. Do you know what it is due? Undefined, undefined, undefined. Okay. So did we? Yeah, we got latest. Yeah, we got object undefined, undefined, undefined. We didn't get that. Can you share your latest flow? Okay, yeah. It looks like they solved it, but I was having fun. I just wanted to figure it out, have some experience. All right. Looks like we're dropping people watching. I'm trying to figure out if there's something else that I can do to keep things going, but yeah. Might be closing out here shortly. Let's see if maybe there's one other fun, interesting one, but it doesn't seem like it. Anytime I see Steve there, I'm like, he's probably got it. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a good day. If you have any questions, we'll be back here next week for office hours, questions and answers. If you want to join, feel free. And talk to everyone later.